Hello and welcome to the Central Television. I am Likon Onobanjo. The headlines at this hour. World Court says Israel must take steps to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza as South Africa describes ruling as decisive victory. Court sentences popular Lagos pastor Feyi Daniels to life imprisonment for rape. Kenya government to challenge court ruling against Haiti deployment. Details to come your way shortly. We begin the news at this hour with the top United Nations court ruling saying that Israel should do everything it could to prevent any act of genocide in the Gaza Strip in a highly anticipated ruling. The International Court of Justice on Friday said Israel must do everything to prevent the commission of all acts within the scope of the Genocide Convention. Earlier, Gazans expressed lack of conviction in the ruling as they say Israel will not abide by the decision, despite the International Court of Justice's ruling, which orders Israel to halt its military campaign launched in retaliation of Hamas's unprecedented attacks on October 7. It has little power to enforce its rulings.
The State of Israel shall take all measures within its power to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement to commit genocide in relation to members of the Palestinian group in the Gaza Strip. 16 votes to 1. The State of Israel shall take immediate and effective measures to ensure the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian assistance to address the adverse conditions of life faced by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
In the meantime, South Africa has hailed a ruling by the ICJ that Israel should prevent any act of genocide in Gaza, with President Cyril Ramaphosa saying he hopes it would lead to a ceasefire. South Africa's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also welcomed the ruling as a decisive victory for the international rule of law and a significant milestone in the search for justice for the Palestinian people.
العالم إلى اليوم بعد 100 فوق ال 111 أو 112 يوم لا يزال متفرجا ولم يقتلع قرارا فوريا بوقف إطلاق النار وإدخال الأغذية وإدخال الأدوية وإجلاء الجرحى.
قرار هو تصريح لدولة
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has slammed the South Africa genocide case as outrageous after UN Court Gaza ruling. South Africa had brought the case against Israel, accusing it of breaching the 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention, set up in the ashes of World War II and the Holocaust. President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Council of South Africa's governing party erupted in cheers after the ruling, which the Foreign Ministry hailed as a decisive victory. However, Netanyahu had already suggested he does not feel bound by the court, saying no one will stop Israel.
Israel's commitment to international law is unwavering. Equally unwavering is our sacred commitment to continue to defend our country and defend our people. Like every country, Israel has an inherent right to defend itself. The vile attempt to deny Israel this fundamental right is blatant discrimination against the Jewish state, and it was justly rejected. The charge of genocide leveled against Israel is not only false, it's outrageous, and decent people everywhere.
I'm now joined by William Els, Senior Training Coordinator in ACT Program Institute for Security Studies. Thank you so much, William Els, for talking to us at this time.
Good evening to you.
So what do you think are the implications of the ICJ's decision for both Israel and Palestine?
Well, there are far-reaching implications for that. Remember, the world is quite divided by this case. You've got the people pro-Israel, and then also you've got the other lobbying countries and groups that support South Africa in this venture. So that's quite a dividing case that has been brought to the international court. But what we see there are different things that have been achieved. Firstly, the court had to decide whether they've got the jurisdiction to hear the case. And we see that the court actually decided that it did have, and therefore they went ahead with the interim ruling. Did South Africa achieve everything that it wanted to? And not so. One of the things that the court actually did not go ahead to is to order Israel to immediately stop and suspend the actions, and also a permanent ceasefire that they requested to be the sort from the court. There also one other interesting factor there, just to come in there, is even though the court has not been asked to order that, the court has mentioned that it ordered Hamas to immediately release the hostages. So that is on the one side. On the other side, we see that 6 provisional measures have been issued, and that actually put Israel on notice to prevent all genocidal acts. He did not find that he did commit any genocidal acts. It also instructed Israel to prevent and punish the direct and public incitement of a genocide. They also ordered to take immediate and effective steps to ensure humanitarian assistance to the citizens. And then also, what is very important, it also instructed Israel to preserve any evidence of genocide and to submit a report within 1 month of them agreed or starting with that. So all in all, it is a partial victory for South Africa, we would say. They did not get everything, but they managed to get these 6 measures that instructed Israel to do. And what you asked is what will happen now. We heard the response of the Prime Minister of Israel. We must just understand that this court, even though it has got a jurisdiction, if you look at the history, and there are several cases. For instance, they're ruling against Russia, they're ruling against America in the 80s, where the ruling was just ignored and nothing happened. What happened in the previous case in 1986 of South Africa and in Nicaragua and America, Nicaragua actually took it to the Security Council, and the Security Council then started to draft measures for America to implement the ruling of the court, and America just went ahead and they vetoed that. So that are the possible outcomes that we might expect.
So now, Els, now that the ICJ has rolled out 6 provisions, but then the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has come out to say that he does not feel bound by the court and no one will stop Israel. Are we looking at a scenario whereby this decision by the ICJ will not have any impact whatsoever on the conflicts, and probably might not just be any peace negotiation between Israel and Palestine? Is that what we're looking at right now?
Well, it's early days. So from the Israeli side, even though they say that no one will stop them, they make a lot of noise. Obviously, they will do. But one thing that I think that will happen is they will even pay more caution to their actions. They know that the world spotlight is now on them, and but I doubt whether they will cease. Remember, they've got still the hostages that they need to free. They've got a lot of internal pressure from the families of the hostages. So on that side, the Israel will continue until they actually have released these hostages, and also they said they will continue until they reached their objective of destroying the movement of Hamas. And they were very clear there that they do not intend to destroy the Palestinian people, but that their actions are against Hamas. So we will have to wait and see. It will come out in the washing how that will affect their actions in future.
So, looking at the court ruling and the response of Israel's Prime Minister, how does this decision and what has played out, how does it fit into the broader context of international law and human rights?
Well, I think it is a victory for human rights because all of us adhere to human rights. We adhere to the rule of law, and of course, genocide is something that is very near true to the heart of us as Africans because of the events that happened in Rwanda, and we do not want that to happen ever again after that has happened. So for us, that is a victory for human rights. That is a victory. It also, like I mentioned, it put the spotlight on Israel, and it will cause them to be much more cautious in their actions. They will really think twice and also make sure that these measures are in place. Because remember, they even though they've got partners in especially in America and some other countries that they cannot do without in terms of supplying them and assisting them with weapons, etc. So they will have to adhere to what has been ordered. Otherwise, they might risk that these partners may be alienated as well.
Finally, over 25,900 people have lost their lives in Palestine as we speak. A lot of people have lost their homes, their property, and people are living in destitution. How do we now begin to look for solutions as regard improving humanitarian aid along the Gaza Strip?
That has been the big issue when it comes to humanitarian aid. Israel is blaming Hamas that they are using and abusing this aid for their own. They are stealing it, and it's not being distributed by them or by the agencies that are supposed to distribute it. And the accusations are that it is not reaching the end user, and those are the victims and the people of Palestine. So that is a challenge. That is a challenge that there should be more spotlight on in order to ensure also that Hamas comply with assisting these humanitarian aid to reach the right people and not abuse it. So there is also a spotlight on them now, as it is on the government of Israel, because every side always has got three sides to look at, where depends where your perspective is. All in all, I think this is a victory for human rights. It is a victory for the prevention of genocide. It places a spotlight on how easy genocides could occur, and the onus on us to prevent that in future.
William Els, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And elsewhere, the Supreme Court has affirmed the 5-year jail term handed to a former member of the House of Representatives, Farouk Lawan. By the Court of Appeal, he was convicted and sentenced to prison in 2021 for accepting $500,000 bribe from a businessman, Femi Otedola. In a unanimous judgment, a 5-member panel affirmed the 2022 judgment of the Appeal Court, which upheld Lawan's sentencing to 5 years in respect of only count 3 on the 3-count charge on which he was tried at the Abuja High Court. In the lead judgment, prepared by Justice John Okoro, but read on Friday by Justice Tijani Abubakar, the Apex Court found that Lawan's appeal was without merit and proceeded to dismiss it. Let's now tell you that a Lagos Sexual and Domestic Violence Court has sentenced the founder of Irene Christian Ministry to life imprisonment on Friday for raping a church member. Founder Feyi Daniels was found guilty of rape and sexual assault by Judge Rahman Oshodi for crimes committed against a female worshipper at the Lagos-based church. More in Nominees reports.
The Lagos state government arraigned Bishop Oluwafeyi Daniel before the Sexual Offence Court on a 4-count charge of rape contrary to Section 260 subsection 2 of the Criminal Law of Lagos State 2015. The state claimed that the defendant, the founder of Irene Christian Ministry, allegedly committed the offences sometime in June 2020 at Ikota Villa Estate, Lekki, Lagos.
Whether you freeze my accounts or you pay bloggers to speak against me or to write in newspaper, the counsel of Jehovah will stand.
The court found Bishop Daniel guilty and sentenced him to life imprisonment on the first count of rape and 3 years imprisonment on the third count.
The court found him guilty of the fourth count charge against the first complainant. They found him guilty of rape. That carried a life sentence. But the court, in its wisdom, said that the prosecution did not establish enough evidence in the second count of rape against the second complainant. But the court further went to find him guilty of sexual assault against the third complainant, but did not find him guilty of attempted rape.
We want to say thank you to Lagos State government for saying no and zero tolerance to any form of gender-based violence. Today is landmark. This is a victory we didn't see coming. We knew we were going to have victory, but we didn't know it was going to be like this.
This sentencing comes at a time when more church leaders and pastors are being accused of sexual abuse.
It has also told survivors who have been brutalized, who have been, have one way or the other been victimized and traumatized by men of the cloth, that they have a voice and that when they talk, we'll listen.
Justice has been served, and this is giving us joy that we can still rely on the justice system of Nigeria. In my own case, and I think that is the only regret I will be having in my life, that I didn't take TB Joshua to court because I was not well guided.
As a man, I'm ashamed that we still have men who feel they can rape women, they can sexually assault women, and nothing will happen. Because see, if you know that the lady you're about to mess up with, if you know this will happen to you, you won't dare.
Sexual rights activists believe the position of trust and authority that clergy hold makes these crimes particularly shocking and deserving of serious consequences. The sentencing of Bishop Daniel is seen as a warning for would-be offenders that sexual crimes will not be tolerated, even for those in leadership positions. The expectation is that all institutions must work to ensure a safe environment for citizens. In Lagos for News Central, Omani.
You're watching News Now. We go on a short break. When we return, we'll continue with the stories. Many thanks for being there. Now, the Lagos State government on Sunday announced a ban on the usage and distribution of styrofoam and other single-use plastics in the state with immediate effect. A statement signed by the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, said the decision was reached following the menace that single-use plastics, especially the non-biodegradable styrofoam, were causing on the environment. Lieutenant Willie reports. We will definitely bring you details of that particular story in our subsequent bulletins, but then let's tell you that a private jet having about 10 persons on board has overshot the Ibadan airport runway in the Oyo State capital. The jet, we understand, was carrying very important personalities. According to sources, the incident happened on Friday around 11 a.m. local time at the Samuel Ladoke Akintola Airport. The jet missed the runway and skidded into the nearby bush. Firefighters and rescue officials from the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria were immediately deployed to the scene. However, there was no death or casualty recorded. Spokesperson for the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Cyril Ramaphosa, said it was a private plane from Abuja. It landed safely but overshot the runway, adding that there was no casualty. Let's now tell you that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in last year's election, Atiku Abubakar, has demanded explanation from the federal government over an emergency loan of $3.3 billion by the NNPC Limited. Atiku, in a statement, expressed worry that since the loan was secured last year, the Tinubu-led administration has handled the affair in secrecy. The deal is supposed to be a crude-for-cash loan arranged by the African Export-Import Bank, which was said will cushion the harsh foreign exchange environment. According to the statement, a special-purpose vehicle called Project Gazelle Funding Limited is driving the deal, and it was incorporated in the Bahamas. The SPV is the borrower, while the NNPC is the sponsor, with an agreement to pay with crude oil to the SPV in order to liquidate the loan at an interest rate that is little over 12%. Joining me to further discuss this is Kenneth Ikena, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for joining us at this time.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Now, what's your reaction to the $3.3 billion emergency crude repayment loan secured through the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited?
Well, first and foremost, I think I must commend the evolution of our democracy. For the first time in a long time, the sitting government of the party in power is actually having really strong opposition, and that is what democracy should actually be. So the opposition should serve as an extended arm of checks and balances to the executive. But my problem is that these people that are, throwing out all these accusations, they all happen to be friends at one point in time or the other, and they all happen to also be in the same party. But let's go spot on to the subject matter, because this is quite hilarious. But when it comes to the amount of money that is involved, it is not hilarious. Now, you look at the contract that is actually involved. This is not the first time that we are hearing of a crude for cash, deals and arrangements that are being made on behalf of the Nigerian people by the Nigerian government. But we must take very seriously the allegation that the presidential candidate of PDP is actually making, that the deal was actually done, but it was done with very sketchy details. And we were actually told in the press, it was reported that it cost about 3.3 billion, but the interest and the terms and conditions that are particular and peculiar to the contracts, we are not told. So it is a right call at this point in time for questions that border on transparency and full disclosure to actually be asked. So we hope that the government will be able to attend to these allegations and give us the actual details that Nigerians are actually demanding for, now through the mouth of the opposition.
Well, though we are yet to have full access to the details as regards these arrangements, are there any benefits of whatever type or guise of such kind of loan arrangements like this, most especially for the NNPC and the Nigerian governments?
All right, the Nigerian government is a representative of the Nigerian people if we actually look at the concept of sovereignty. Well, looking at the benefits, we just don't look at the benefits of a particular deal or contract, we also look at the cost. So we conduct what we call a cost-benefit analysis. Now, we look spot on the industry and on the product that is involved. We're looking at the oil and gas industry, and we're looking at crude. The oil and gas industry is the most VUCA-centric industry you find anywhere in the world. What do we mean by VUCA? It's an acronym. One, there's a high level of volatility, there's a high level of ambiguousness, and there's a high level of uncertainty when it comes to oil. At present, the Brent oil crude per barrel is vacillating between $79 and $89 per barrel. Now, when there are global shocks in that industry, there was a point in time where a Brent oil per barrel came down to about $15. So depending on how this deal and how this loan was actually structured and the terms and conditions, the risk is for the NNPC, if there is a global shock that leads to a reduction, all right, in the price of crude, the NNPC will have to pay more for the loan, and the deal will be restructured so that the NNPC and the federal government will be paying more. Now, why it is important to ask the kind of questions that the opposition is asking is this. If you are actually saying that it is a crude for cash deal, how much crude are you actually giving out? It also means that if there is a global appreciation in the prices of crude per barrel, if the prices, for instance, go to about $100 or $150 per barrel, and you have signed a contract to actually give out $10 per barrel as a swap, all right? It means that the receiving or the receiving partner in the deal will be getting more, and Nigeria will be losing much more. So these are the risks involved. It is quite a risky one, and I would not have advised the government to go for a deal of this nature, not at this point in time, especially with the global uncertainties that surround the oil and gas business and the industry at large.
Permit me to just quickly understand this better. You said that if the price of crude at the international market drops, that what Nigeria will be paying back in terms of interest loans would be more. And you also said that if the price goes up, if there's an increase in the price of crude on the international market, that still the recipient of that particular deal would still earn more. So does it mean that Nigeria has no other benefit whatsoever apart from the $3.3 billion it is hoping to secure from Afreximbank?
From my X-ray of the entire subject matter, Nigeria, just the only single benefit that Nigeria is getting is that we have gotten, I think, about 2.5 billion, and another 1.2 or 1.3 billion is still coming in. We have gotten the exchange to actually make, you know, a cash inflow and cash outflow in the foreign exchange market more liquid. Aside from that, like I said, if the crisis, if there's a crisis, if there's a global shock in the global oil and gas market, it will not be to the benefit of Nigeria. This is why deals like this should be thrown. We call it full disclosure when it comes to corporate governance. Now, if I have come to you to structure a deal, and at the point in time, maybe as a result of inflation, as a result of the drop in prices, what I will be getting at the time that the deal is to fall through, at the time the deal is to be completed, is going to be lower than what I even gave out to you as initial capital. How do you go about that deal? So I think the major call of the opposition is that the terms, the conditions, most importantly, the clauses that are peculiar to this particular deal should have actually been spelled out. Now, let me do the mathematics for you, and let me show you why there might be a need for us to be a little bit worried about why there's no proper full disclosure. Now, the initial deal went for 3.3 billion, and we're reading different details at an interest rate of about 12%. Now, at an interest rate of about 12%, the repayment will have come to give and take about 4 billion. Now, when you look at the present price of crude, of Brent crude, it goes for, let's say, about $80 per barrel. What the Nigerian government and NNPC will have been given to the recipient would have come to just 50 million barrels of oil. Now, but the allegation that Alhaji Atiku is making is that the total barrels of oil that was agreed to be given out came to about 116 million barrels of oil. At $80 per barrel, that brings us to about $12 billion or thereabout. So it's quite dicey, it's quite sketchy, and it is not in any way to the benefit of Nigeria, except that in the short term, it solves a short-term problem. But you do not solve a problem with short-term benefits and create longer-term benefits, especially in a global system where all the financials of all the countries are linked to the World Bank, and the subtractions can be taken from our accounts at any point in time. This, I think, is the major worry and the major complaint from the opposition. So the
now,
variation, are you giving or are you giving out 90 million?
Okay, so to wrap things up, now it's been said that the calculation that the former vice president gave might not just be adequate, might just be over the rooftop. But then what I want to point out is the fact that you said that that is not what Nigeria should be getting into now. But then the Nigerian government has come out to say that it wants to stabilize the economy. It wants to get enough forex, and it also wants to stabilize and bring about some appreciable parity between the naira and the dollar. So if you're saying that that is not the way to go, so what is the way to go? What do you think the Nigerian government should be doing to deal with the issue of instability in its naira, in its currency and economy?
First and foremost, you and I live in Nigeria. And we know that when this government came on board, we met the dollar at about 600 naira to a dollar. Now, even with the so-called loan that they have taken to stabilize the foreign exchange market, the dollar is going in the black market or private market now for about 1,300 naira to a dollar to 1,335 naira as at yesterday. I don't know the present spot price. So there has been no real benefit in terms of injecting that quantum of cash into the economy to make liquid the foreign exchange market. That should be one thing we should hold on the right hand. What do we need to do to actually stabilize the naira and the power of the naira against the dollar? The first thing is that we have to bear short-term pains, and nobody is saying this. We have to bear short-term pains for long-term benefits. The borrowing left and right does not stabilize any currency, especially because there is a grave depth of regulatory gaps and weaknesses when it comes to the foreign exchange market. One of the major solutions to the economic instability that we're having, the macroeconomic instability we're having, is for us to diversify the economy and make sure that we become an economy that is actually engaged in economic activities. We are trading too much. We are over-dependent on oil and gas, and that is where our major problem actually is. So the people that should be in manufacturing, the people that should be in agriculture, the people that should be in hospitality, the people that should be in goods and services that can be exported out of Nigeria are not focusing on that, because the all-important focus is actually on oil. Everybody waits at the end of the month to share the proceeds from oil. That doesn't all go well for the country. The singular solution to this is to bear the short-term pains and to diversify the economy. That is the way forward, and we will get long-term benefits.
Kenneth Ikena, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me on.
Moving on now, the Lagos State government, as we told you earlier on Sunday, announced a ban on the usage and distribution of styrofoam and other single-use plastics in the state with immediate effect. A statement signed by the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, said the decision was reached following the menace that single-use plastics, especially the non-biodegradable styrofoam, were causing on the environment. Bettina really tells us more in this report.
The Lagos State government's recent move to impose a ban on the use of styrofoam is generating reactions, highlighting the complexities of environmental regulations in metropolitan regions.
I don't feel happy at all. I feel bad because there's some people that is only what they sell. If they stop it, how are they going to make their livelihood living?
It's very, very okay because it's causing a lot of dirty around. People don't keep them. As soon as they use them, they don't dispose them properly.
Me personally, I'm not feel happy. Actually, if we stop it, where are we going to start? Because some of us, that is where we eat in our family. So government or states, whatever, they will know what to do to stop people that are using it along the road to sell.
Styrofoam, also recognized as expanded polystyrene, has served as a widely used packaging material for many years, owing to its lightweight and effective insulation properties. Foamed polystyrene is made into insulation, packaging, and food containers such as beverage cups, egg cartons, and disposable plates and trays.
It contains some chemicals that are carcinogenic, and these can cause cancer and other health-associated risks. When it comes to styrofoam, it is long overdue for the ban.
Over the last few decades, there have been multiple debates about whether plastic foam, also known as polystyrene, is biodegradable or not. From start to finish, plastic foam production relies on harsh chemicals.
now that the styrofoam has been banned, so you're going to think outside the box, invest in your R&D research, and also help bring innovative solutions, innovative and sustainable packaging material. So we also have, as part of alternative, you don't want to eat in or bring your own plates. You can also purchase their bamboo products that are made from bamboo material, really. So you can also use bamboo plates, you can use your stainless plates, so there are actually many, even paper plates. There are some paper plates that are actually very biodegradable and eco-friendly, so you can also use that as an alternative to using styrofoam.
While the jury may be out for an exact amount of time, the unsettling truth is that polystyrene does not decompose. It's not a question about how long it takes, but rather about understanding just how dangerous the cycle of plastic foam is. In Lagos for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, says it aborted a negotiation mission to speak with military leaders in Niger because of technical problems with a chartered aircraft. The Economic Community of West African States has imposed tough sanctions on Niger since a coup in July ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, but it is trying to negotiate a transition back to civilian rule. The Prime Minister, appointed by Niger's military regime on Thursday, criticized ECOWAS for bad faith after only Togo's foreign minister turned up for a rescheduled meeting. ECOWAS said it would reschedule the mission as soon as possible. Niger's rulers had hoped for a chance to work through differences with ECOWAS states. Coming up on the news, Kenyan governments to challenge court ruling against deployment of police to Haiti. Details of this we will bring to you in a short while. News Central now continues in East Africa, where the Kenyan government has vowed to challenge a court ruling against its decision to send police contingents to Haiti to lead a UN-backed law and order mission in the gang-plagued Caribbean nation. The ruling, which branded the deployment illegal, throws into doubt the future of a multinational force long sought by Haiti's government, which has pleaded for international help to confront violence that has left nearly 5,000 dead. The UN Security Council approved the mission in early October. However, concerns in Kenya over Nairobi's involvement prompted a court challenge. In the meantime, Kenya's Court of Appeal has declined to suspend an order that had blocked the government from implementing a controversial housing levy. The government had requested the court to allow it to continue deducting the monthly levy from salaried Kenyans pending the hearing of appeals challenging the levy's introduction. Last June, President William Ruto signed the Finance Act, a legislation that is unpopular with many after introducing a 1.5% housing levy payable each month by both employers and employees. But in November, the High Court ruled that the levy was unconstitutional as it had been introduced without a proper legal framework and was only imposed on salaried Kenyans. In Southern Africa, Zimbabwe's main opposition leader, Nelson Chamisa, will stay in politics and look to form a new political group. He made this known a day after he quit his own party, denouncing government infiltration. Chamisa, who in August lost an election he described as fraudulent to President Emmerson Mnangagwa, said he was ready for a new thrust after leaving the Citizens Coalition for Change on Thursday. He decided to exit the coalition party he formed only 2 years ago to draw a line in the sand after it was hijacked by the ruling ZANU-PF party. From From other continents, we'll tell you that Alabama has executed convicted murderer Kenneth Eugene Smith with nitrogen gas. This is the first time the method of capital punishment has been used globally. It was reported that Smith thrashed violently on the gurney and the execution took around 25 minutes. The UN condemned it on Friday as cruel, but Alabama said the process had been carried out humanely. Smith was convicted in 1989 of murdering a preacher's wife, Elizabeth Sennett, in a killing-for-hire situation. In his final words, the 58-year-old said his death would mean Alabama had taken humanity a step backwards. Let's also tell you that British head of state King Charles III will attend hospital next week for a corrective procedure to treat an enlarged prostate. The 75-year-old monarch's public engagements will be postponed for a short period of recuperation. According to Britain's National Health Service, benign prostate enlargement is common in men aged over 50 and is not related to cancer. Also, it is not usually a serious threat to health. Symptoms include a frequent need to pass water and difficulty in fully emptying the bladder. The cause is said to be unknown, but it is believed to be linked to a hormonal change as a man gets older. The 42-year-old wife of William, Prince of Wales, heir to the British throne, was also admitted to a private clinic in central London on Tuesday, as according to Kensington Palace. Talking business now, the Nigerian Ports Authority and the Nigerian Customs Service are set to embrace collaboration in the drive for port efficiency and competitiveness in support of the country's economic diversification. This was made known at a press briefing held at the Ports Authority's headquarters on Thursday in Lagos. News Central's maritime correspondent Inyoma Obi Aswalu has more.
And the Nigerian Customs Service (NCS) have pledged their commitment to work together, deepen trade facilitation, and drive exports as part of measures that will support the Nigerian government's economic diversification agenda. This pledge was made during the Controller General of Customs, Bashir Adeni's visit to NPA's headquarters in Lagos. In his remarks, the Managing Director of NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, said there is a need to streamline export desks to make facilitation of cargoes on board vessels seamless, as he frowned at the situation where export processing terminals report to the export desk at the seaports. He also applauded the Customs CG's effort for the tremendous increase in percentage in quantity of export cargo seen, but insisted that the issue of multiple export desks needs to be addressed. The NPA boss urged the Customs CG to include the authority as part of agencies of government that would benefit from the proceeds of auctioning overtime cargoes at the port, as huge funds were spent in moving the overtime cargoes from the seaport to the Ikorodu terminal.
The issues of congestion at the port is because we need to make the ports more efficient. We need to be able to clear cargo as quickly as possible. So we have discussed the issue of 24-hour port operations, where we need custom officers to going forward to be working on shift. That way you can have cargo clearing and cargo discharge and other things into the night 24 hours. But for them to do that, it means you need the shipping lines, you also need the terminal operators and security, and everybody needs to actually be on their toes and work 24 hours.
In his response, the Customs CG stated that the visit to the NPA is to renew friendship, deepen existing relationship, and buying into the vision of the NPA to ensure port efficiency and competitiveness, which would help the Customs Service facilitate trade, increase revenue generation, and regain cargoes lost to ports in neighboring countries.
If you deploy scanners to examine goods rather than subject them to 100% examination, that's one way to make them faster and more efficient. We are building our risk management. We are expanding fast track. We are going to get into AEO in the next, in the first quarter of this year, so that more of our companies will not, have their containers subjected to examination in the port. We are launching a time release study for us to actually determine the time and the costs it takes to clear goods in our ports.
The collaboration is set to improve Nigeria's export earnings, decongest the ports, and aid the facilitation of export cargoes on board ocean-going vessels.
Let's also tell you that the 2024 Academy Awards nominees were made public.
It will be very important that we try to understand this in different contexts, right? So if we can see the last movie that is really trending and doing very well, which we can't stop talking about, which is A Tribe Called Judah, that's the Funke Akindele movie. We found out that she did a lot in terms of marketing the movie. Besides getting A-list actors and paying them very well, she was also able to do a very fantastic promotion for the movie. And her budget for the promotion alone was over 100 million, which we can see the impact of doing good promotions for a movie. Now, if you want to check some
In sports, ahead of the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations round of 16 clash with Nigeria, Cameroonian football fans are also looking forward to the encounter with equal trepidation. Speaking earlier today on In the Game, sports editor of Cameroon Radio and TV, Simon Lyonga, said the long historical, cultural and sporting ties between both nations will ensure that the match will evoke a wide range of emotions amongst Cameroonian football fans worldwide.
From no argument. Let me tell you something. Some of us who played football, though at very low level, and when we were in school, because I grew up in school in Boya, which is in the English-speaking part of Cameroon, whenever we had our normal games on Sunday, whenever we said it is a game Nigeria against Cameroon, you need to see it was full. People were always there. The rivalry begins from that low, and when it comes up, even when it goes to club competition.
Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp has announced his decision to step down from the role at the end of the season, citing a depletion of energy. Klopp, appointed in October 2015 with a contract until 2026, achieved significant success, winning the Champions League in 2019 and securing Liverpool's first league title in 30 years in 2019-2020 season. The unexpected news comes while Liverpool is competing for 3 trophies, leading the Premier League, progressing to the Europa League knockout phase, and set to face Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. Additionally, they are in contention for the FA Cup, playing against Norwich City for a spot in the 5th round. Klopp revealed his decision in a recently released club video. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we take a look at some of our top stories. World Court has said Israel must take steps to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza, as South Africa described the ruling as a decisive victory. Court has sentenced a popular Lagos pastor, Feyi Daniels, to life imprisonment for rape. And finally, we told you that Kenya government is set to challenge court ruling against a Haiti deployment. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. You can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onobanjo.